5x squared equal to, this is binomial, so you have to expand. So it's going to be x times x will give you x squared. X times 3 will give you 3x. From here then you pick 2. 2 times x will give you 2x. 2 times 3 will give you what? 6. So from here you add like terms because there is a like terms here. X squared plus this and this. 3x and 2x are like terms. So you add them together, we are getting x because it has x exponent 1, x exponent 2, meaning this and that are like terms. So you add them, we are getting 3 plus 2, 5x plus 6. So looking at the equation here, it appears that we have two quadratic terms, which is 5x squared and x squared. So you are going to arrange it by the highest order of the quadratic, and this is the quadratic term. So it's going to be 5x squared. When you transpose this, then it's going to be negative x squared. Once the leading coefficient is at our left, meaning we have to move every term here to our left side of the equation. So once this is positive, then when it transpose, it becomes negative 5x. Then we transpose 6 to this side. When we move 6 to this side, we are getting negative 6. And once we've moved with x squared, 5x and 6 to the left, everything here will turn 0. Then you simplify the like terms in this to get the proper quadratic equation. So x squared minus 5x minus 6 equal to 0. Now you've gotten our quadratic equation. And now ask you, what type of quadratic equation? Is it type 1, type 2? Because I indicate the differences in terms of type 1, type 2, and that of type 3. With this quadratic equation, what are you going to say? Is it type 1, type 2, or type 3 of quadratic equation? This is a type 2. Why? Because I explained myself in the part 1 that anytime you are given a quadratic equation where the quadratic term has a coefficient which is more than 1, then it becomes type 2. Okay. So now, once we've known that this is a type 2, then let's see how to solve this by factorization. So 4x squared minus 5x minus 6 equal to 0. This time around, I'm not going to use the traditional method where you multiply 4 by 6, then you are going to get 24. Then you find factors of 24. From there, then you find two numbers which when you add, it will give you negative 5. No, I'm not using that traditional method. I'm going to use calculator in finding the two numbers that can replace this negative 5. So I'll go straight. I'll go to mode. Then I'll go to equation. Equation is number 5. Then where is the quadratic equation? Quadratic equation is number 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'll punch my 3 here. Yes. Looking at the interface, we have A, B, C on the calculator interface. The calculator interface. We have A, B, C. Meaning our A is 4. Meaning the B on the calculator means our B is negative 5. Not 5, it's negative 5. And our C is what? Our C here is what? Is it 6 or negative 6? Yes, it's negative 6. So you punch 4. Then you hit the button, equal sign button for the calculator to pick or fill it. So 4, then our B is negative and we punch negative 5. You press the equal sign. You press the equal sign so that it can move to the C10. If you don't press the equal sign, it can't move to the C10. So our C term here is what? Our C term here is what? Negative 6. Negative 6. So you press your equal sign, then you are getting your x1. So let's see how the calculator is solving. So you write your x1. My x1 as 2. And then you press the equal sign again. you are getting your x2 as what? Negative 3 over 4. So the critical values the calculator is giving us is what? 2 and negative 3 on 4. And you bear with me that in solving quadratic equation, the two numbers we normally use in replacing the middle term, the two numbers should be a whole number, not a fraction. But with our case here, one is a whole number and the other one is a fraction. So can we replace this? Can we put that fraction here? It's impossible. It's not possible. So what you are doing here is, how are we going to get the two whole numbers, which when we add, it will give us negative 5. I'm showing you the trick. This is how I use in solving quadratic equation when using calculator. So what I do is, after putting down my critical values, which you people call it the root of the quadratic, which is what? 2, negative 3 over 4. This is how I, so you do this at the back or behind where the imaginary line is. You go there, then what you are doing is, if the calculator is giving you whole 2, positive 2, you write negative 2. This is a way of finding the two whole numbers that can replace the negative 5. The way of finding is what I'm teaching you now. It's very important, so you need to pay attention to it. When the calculator gives you negative 2, you write. When the calculator gives you positive 2, you write negative 2. Then you equate it. Here the calculator gave us negative 3 on 4, so you are going to put as positive 3 on 4. So from here, then you do cross multiplication, meaning here is over 1. So 2 times negative, 4 times negative 2 will give you negative 8. And 1 times 3 will give you 3. Watch here, so much, so interesting. You see how I maneuver to get my magic numbers, the two numbers, which I'm going to replace it with what? Negative 5. Watch it. Now add it. Negative 8 plus 3 will give you negative 5. So these are the two possible numbers. Those using calculator in solving. This video is more important to me. How to use calculator in finding the two numbers to replace it, because as you go forward or in higher cases, you may be given quadratic equation where the traditional method we knew way back in JHS will not help. And now, SHS mathematics, you are entitled to calculator. So why don't you learn how to use the calculator in solving quadratic equation with ease? So this is what I'm taking you through. So what I did was, I will point this on my calculator and the calculator will give me that possible values, which is x1 as 2, x2 as negative 3 on 4. So in order for me to get my two magic numbers, in order for me to get this magic number, what I did was reset. Take this instruction, take it once. If the calculator gives you positive number, you are going to write it as what? Negative number, negative 2. Then you equate it, the two numbers, the two critical, you are going to equate it. Here the calculator gave me negative 3 on 4. I will write it as what? Positive 3 on 4. Then I will use cross multiplication to get that magic number. So what I did, cross multiplication, 4 times negative will give me negative 8. 4 times will give me negative 8. 1 times 3. Now add it. You see how it works. It will give you the positive negative 5. So now I'm going to form my 4 terms. So this is going to be 4x squared negative 8, because of the one we are removing contains what? Holds what? X. Then you put your x there, and this one is what? Positive 3. So you write 3, positive 3, then you add your x, and it is true when you add this, it will give you negative 5 minus 6 equal to what? 0. This is how I came at my 4 terms. Even though the calculator gave me fraction, but I maneuver with this idea to get the two numbers to replace negative 5. So please, this is more important, so you can go over and over with this method. It will help you in future. Now, the reason why I am saying that it will help you in future is that in my next video on episode 3 then we move on to the part 3. That one, I'm using calculator. All my quadratic equation, I will use calculator to get my 4 terms. So that the one who is marking your paper may think that you got your 2 numbers of it. Meanwhile, you maneuver using calculator. You maneuver using what? Calculator. So please pay more attention to this. How I came by -8 and 3. When you punch this on your calculator, it's going to give you 2 and -3 or 4. So in order for you to get the 2 numbers, what you do is you equate the 2 numbers together. So the instruction here is more important to me. The instruction here is when the calculator gives you positive number, you just write down as negative. When the calculator gives you negative number, you write it as what? Positive. Then you use cross multiplication to get the 2 numbers. Cross multiplication means this one to multiply this. You are getting -8 here. And if you multiply this, you are getting 3. So these are the magic number that can replace this 5 for you. Then you put the 2 numbers here to get your 4 terms. So always you maintain your first term and you are going to maintain your last term. So the middle term was removed and replaced with this -8 and 3. This is what you are getting. So from here, this is a simple factorization. And to factorize, you copy it again. 4x squared minus 8x, you put them in a bracket. You put your first 2 in a bracket. Then you put your last 2 also in a bracket, which is 3x minus 6 is also in a bracket like this. Then you start factorizing. So for watch here. Let's see, because students have problem with factorization. Students is having challenges with factorization. Watch it. When it comes to factorization, what you do here is you find common element. The word common element here means it can be a number and at the same time it can be a letter. So I'm starting with number first. 4 can go into 8. So it tells me that 4 is common, so I'll put 4 out. Because 4 can go into 8, I will put down my 4 out. Watch here. The letters x is here, x is here. So x is common, so I will pick one of the x out. Then I will bring my brackets. Mean I've taken 4 and x out. What is left here? It is left with what? X. Why? Because 4 is already out, and I have 2 of the x, and one of them is out. So it is left with 1. Then the sign here. Then I say 4 goes into 8. 4. This 4 here goes into 8 how many times? 2. Watch here, this x is already out, so there's no need to bring it here. The x is already out, it's out, so there's no need to bring it here. Watch it, let's see how to factorize this. We said when you are factorizing, check number first. When you are factorizing, you check your number first, numbers first. Check 3 and 6. Can 3 go into 6? Can 3 go into 6? If 3 can go into 6, then you bring your 3 out. I have x here, but there is no x here, so meaning you can't bring x out. What is left? X minus. What number am I going to place here? What number am I going to put here? This 3 goes into 6. How many times? 6. 3 here goes into 6. How many times goes there? 2. Now what? If you know from here, if you want to know whether what you are doing is correct, ideally you can check your brackets. What is in the first bracket is the same thing which is happening in the second bracket. It tells you that you are on the right path. Anytime you factorize and it happens that the terms in the first bracket is seen in the second bracket, it tells you that you are doing the right thing. Very good. So from here, let's see how to form the factors. You open your bracket, you copy the scalars 4x and plus 3. So you put those numbers in a bracket first. When you pick this bracket, this is the scalar. When you pick this is the, you pick those numbers in and form one bracket with that numbers. 4x and plus 3. You put them in a bracket. And the second bracket, watch here. X minus 2 is here, and at the same time, you see, so you pick only one of them. You are picking only one. So there are 2. You pick only one, which is x minus 2. That's all. You've been able to form your factors. So we said that once you are dealing with quadratic equation and the 2 factors is equated to 0, then you solve for the x for us. You can't leave this as your answer. because this is a quadratic equation. This is not quadratic trinomial or quadratic expression as you used to know. This is a quadratic equation. So once this is an equation, meaning you have to continue because you are not done. So it's either the first factor, which is 4x plus 3 equal to 0. Then you make x the subject, or you solve for x. So it's going to be 4x. This one will transpose negative 3. Divide here by 4, here by 4. You are getting your x as negative 3 on 4. Those who use calculator, check. The calculator will give you the exact critical values. The calculator gives you negative 3 on 4, and you are getting the same negative 3 on 4. For that reason, why I advise you that anytime the calculator gives you a negative number, when you are forming the number, write it as what? Positive. Because you are equating it to what? 0 to get your critical values. Very good. So now once I've equated this to 0, meaning I have to equate this to or x minus 2 also equated to 0. Then you make x the subject, or you solve for x. So how many values of x are we getting? You are getting, so we write it as what? The solution becomes s is such that it's a mathematical text or terminology or mathematical, it has a meaning s is such that s cannot behave as any number apart from these two numbers, so far as this equation is concerned. So s is such that x is negative 3 on 4 or 2. So it tells you that these are the only two raw numbers that can make this equation turn 0. チャンネル登録してほしい。